Two true horrifying church horror stories. In the quiet countryside of a small, picturesque town, there stood an old church that had long been abandoned. Its wooden timbers sagged under the weight of time, and its stained glass windows had lost their luster. While the townsfolk spoke in hushed tones of the church's haunting history, few dared to enter its crumbling doors. One gloomy autumn evening, a group of adventurous friends gathered around a bonfire, sharing stories of local legends. Among them was Maria, an avid paranormal enthusiast who had always been intrigued by the eerie tales surrounding the church. "I've heard rumors," she began, her voice trembling slightly with excitement, "that the church is haunted by the ghost of a young nun who tragically died here decades ago." The others exchanged uneasy glances, but curiosity got the better of them. With flashlights in hand, they decided to investigate the abandoned church that very night. As they approached, the ancient building loomed like a silent sentinel against the darkening sky. The creaking of the rusted gate echoed through the stillness of the countryside as they pushed it open. The air grew colder, and a sense of foreboding descended upon them as they crossed the threshold into the church's interior. Inside, the pews were draped with dusty white sheets, and cobwebs clung to the ornate wooden pulpit. Stained glass windows cast eerie, multicolored shadows on the cracked marble floor. Sarah led the group toward the altar, where a large, intricately carved cross hung crookedly on the wall. As they gathered around the altar, Sarah began to speak, her voice quivering with anticipation. Legend has it that the young nun who haunts this place was accused of a forbidden love affair with a priest. They say that, in her despair, she took her own life right here. A shiver ran down the spines of her friends, but they pressed on. Maria, always prepared for the supernatural, pulled out a Ouija board from her backpack. She believed that if they could communicate with the restless spirit, they might uncover the truth of her tragic demise. The group formed a circle, their fingers lightly touching the planchette. Sarah began to ask questions, her voice filled with a mix of fear and excitement. At first, nothing happened, and the atmosphere grew tense. But then, as if guided by an unseen hand, the planchette began to move. The letters spelled out her name. Gasps of shock rippled through the group. Sarah's heart raced as she asked, "Who are you?" The planchette spelled out A-M-I-L-Y. Maria's face turned pale. Emily was the name of the young nun who had died here. The group felt a growing sense of unease as they continued to communicate with the restless spirit. "Emily, what happened to you?" Maria asked, her voice trembling. The planchette moved slowly, unsettling revelation. The group couldn't fathom the depths of Emily's pain and betrayal, but they were determined to uncover the truth. They continued to ask questions, learning that Emily had been falsely accused of a love affair with a priest she had considered a close friend. As the conversation with Emily continued, the atmosphere in the church grew more oppressive. The temperature dropped drastically, and the candles they had placed on the altar flickered erratically. Suddenly, a powerful gust of wind blew through the church, extinguishing all the candles and plunging them into darkness. Panic set in as they fumbled for their flashlights, but when the beams of light finally cut through the darkness, they found themselves alone in the church. Emily's presence had vanished, leaving only the lingering chill in the air as a reminder of her presence. Terrified, the group fled the abandoned church, vowing never to return. They had uncovered the tragic tale of Emily, a young nun wronged by those she trusted, but they had also experienced the chilling reality of the supernatural. From that night on, the abandoned church became a place of dread for the townspeople. No one dared to venture near it after dark, for the haunting tale of Emily, the betrayed nun, served as a chilling reminder of the darkness that could consume even the holiest of places. In a small, forgotten town nestled deep within the woods, there stood an ancient church with a dark history. Locals whispered tales of a cursed preacher who had once presided over the congregation, a man whose sermons had a sinister power. One stormy night, a group of curious teenagers decided to venture into the abandoned church. They hoped to uncover the truth behind the chilling legends that had plagued their town for generations. As they entered the decaying building, the wind howled outside, making the old wooden doors creak ominously. The flickering candlelight revealed eerie symbols etched into the walls, symbols that seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. Unnerved but determined, the group pressed on. In the heart of the church, they discovered a hidden trapdoor leading to a crypt. Reluctantly, they descended into the darkness below. The air grew colder with each step, and a sense of dread hung heavy in the suffocating silence. In the crypt, they found a gruesome sight, a circle of desecrated graves, each one bearing the name of a former parishioner. But one grave stood out. It bore the preacher's name. As they approached, an otherworldly presence enveloped them. Whispers filled the air, and a spectral figure materialized before them, the cursed preacher himself. His eyes, empty sockets filled with malevolence, fixated on the intruders. A blood-curdling scream echoed through the crypt as the teens tried to escape, but an invisible force held them in place. The preacher's ghostly hands reached out, and with a horrifying touch, he transferred his curse to them. From that night on, the town's terror grew as the teenagers experienced nightmarish visions and unspeakable horrors. The cursed church, once forgotten, became a place of dread once more, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurked in the darkness. And so, the true horror of the church's cursed history continued to haunt the town, a gruesome tale that would never be erased from its collective memory. Please like, share, and subscribe.